All right, so it's 7 o'clock on Monday, August 8th, 2022, and I'll call the meeting to order. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Oh, yes, myself. I do have that. Thank you. I do have a conflict of interest on application for minor variance A03 2022, and that is in regards to that application as Stephanie Sanders is my sister. Not seeing any other.
I do, Mayor Smith.
Oh.
6C, item 3, that would be a conflict for me for family reasons.
When was
I
that?
have a foreign trained, that one's about physicians and hiring foreign educated. That could have, that would be a conflict for me.
Alrighty. Before we get to the minutes of the previous meeting, I'll just have Coulter, if you just push your button there so everybody can see that you're here. So you see the three of us up front here. Then we have Councillor Brody, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, Johnny Pereira, our treasurer, and Coulter Cahill, our public works manager. And then Sue, you've already shown your face over there, but we have Councillor Clark to my left, and then Councillor McKinnon is joining us on screen, as well as our planner, Aaron Besh, and our chief building official, Arnie Marshman. So we have the minutes of the previous meeting, and those were held on July 18th, 2022. Mover and seconder to adopt those. Okay, Councillor Brody and Councillor Clark, all those in favor, and that is carried. Alrighty, so we need a motion to go into our committee of adjustment, and we need a motion that council convene as a committee of adjustment for the purpose of hearing applications for minor variance A03 2022, A04 2022, and application for consents B04 and B9. And we need that at 7:02. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried. All right, before we go into the first application, I'll just say that the purpose of the following public hearings for the Adelaide Metcalfe Committee of Adjustment are to give the members of the Committee of Adjustment as well as the general public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the applications before the committee this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or a public body files an appeal of a decision made this evening to the Ontario Land Tribunal without having made a written submission to the committee or council, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. And if you wish to be notified of the decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk. So the first application is minor variance A03 2022. And I see that we have Patrick Sanders here as an agent for the application, and I filed a conflict. So Marianne, yeah, you can just take it over from over there.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mayor. I will turn it over to Aaron to present the application.
Thank you, Chair. So the first application before committee this evening is for minor variance A03 2022, and it's for 1068 Winter Drive. The purpose of this application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it relates to the maximum height of an accessory building or structure. More specifically, the applicant is proposing to build a 297 square meter shop with a height of 7.3 meters, whereas the bylaw restricts accessory structures to 5 meters in height. The applicant has advised that the additional height is required to accommodate a travel trailer. The subject lands in total are about almost 1 hectare in size and contain a single detached dwelling. The applicant has advised that the single detached dwelling has a floor area of about 335 square meters and a height of 6 meters. So the subject lands are located within our agricultural area designation in our official plan and within the rural residential RR zone and the environmental protection EP zone of the Adelaide Metcalfe zoning bylaw. The application was analyzed against the 4 tests of minor variance as is required under Section 45 of the Planning Act. I am satisfied that the 4 tests have been satisfied. The application was also circulated to all of the prescribed agencies and surrounding property owners. The only comment that I received was from St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. They advise that they do have regulated area on the subject lands. However, as the proposed structure is located outside of this area, they have no concerns with the application. So my recommendation this evening for minor variance A03 2022 is approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, do you have any other comments to make?
I don't have anything further to add to it.
Okay. Does anybody in council have any questions or comments? Okay, so in that case, I guess we're looking for a motion. Moved by Betty Ann. Seconded by Councillor Brody. And all in favor of approving the recommendation? And that's carried. So we'll move on. Okay, and I'll hand the chair back to the mayor.
Alrighty, thank you, Deputy Mayor Hendricks. So the next application is for minor variance A04 2022, and we have Martin Timmermans, if you want to come forward, and I believe Joanne is also on Zoom as well, joining us. So we can have whoever wants to answer the questions if there is any or any additional things. So I'm going to hand it over to Aaron to go through the application.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application before committee this evening is for A04 2022, and it's for 2406 Mullaferry Drive. So the purpose of this application is to seek relief from the Adelaide Metcalfe zoning bylaw as it relates to the requirement of all new residential development to comply with the minimum distance separation 1. The applicant is proposing to construct a single detached dwelling on an existing lot of record, which does not meet the required MDS1 setback from 2 abutting livestock operations. The subject lands are approximately 41.6 hectares in size and contain an existing drive shed and lands in agricultural production. The applicant has advised that the drive shed has an area of approximately 1,115 square meters and a height of approximately 9.5 meters. The proposed house would be approximately 140 square meters in size and 7.3 meters in height. The subject lands are located on the northwest corner of Mullaferry Drive and Seed Road and have 2 existing accesses from Mullaferry Drive, one of which was recently constructed in anticipation of the new dwelling. The rear of the lot abuts Highway 402 and has about 1.7 hectares of significant woodland. So during discussions with staff, the applicant has advised that there are several rows of trees that have been planted on the property to assist in mitigating odor and separating the dwelling from the adjacent livestock uses. As they were planted some years ago, the coniferous trees are mature, and staff do believe that they provide some amount of mitigation. The Township Building Department provided me with some MDS1 calculations that identified 2 livestock operations in the vicinity of the dwelling. 2284 Mullaferry Drive contains a barn, which is capable of housing about 1,400 feeder swine with outdoor uncovered liquid manure. So this operation requires an MDS setback of 565 meters from the barn and 609 meters from the outdoor manure pit. 2454 Mullaferry Drive is a similar operation, which can house approximately 1,800 feeder swine with outdoor uncovered liquid manure as well. The required setback for the barn is 514 meters and 612 meters from the outdoor manure pit. The applicant is requesting a setback from 2284 from the barn of 440 meters and a manure storage of 450 meters. From 2454, we are looking for a setback reduction to 360 meters from the barn and 350 meters to the manure storage. So the subject lands are within our agricultural area and are zoned general agriculture A within our zoning bylaw. So as I do with every minor variance application, we analyzed the request against the 4 tests of minor variance. I do want to note that in the case of 284 Ferry Drive, there are 2 dwellings currently located closer to the barn and manure storage than the proposed dwelling is. These 2 houses already do not meet the required separation distances. So my opinion is that the expansion of this operation is already limited by these existing sensitive receptors. I also like to note that 2454 Seed Road, which has the slightly larger operation of 1,800 heads, is actually situated on a relatively small property. It's about 8.1 hectares in size. So expansion of this operation will also be limited as it would not likely meet MDS2 setback distances to the lot lines rather than to the nearest receptor. So in both of these instances, they are already facing MDS2 expansion challenges. So the applicant is proposing the location of the dwelling to be in proximity of the existing development on the lot and to utilize the tree rows which have been previously planted. I would also note that the location along Ferry Drive would maintain some distance away from Highway 402, which abuts the northern property line. And this will add to, reduce the amount of noise that the owner of the house would be experiencing from the highway itself. I would also note that the location will reduce the amount of land being taken out of production as it is locating closer to the existing development on the property itself. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The drainage superintendent provided the following comments. Upon investigation, there are no municipal drains that would be directly impacted by this build. However, it is recommended that the sump pump discharge is not directly connected to any kind of drain to prevent stormwater backflow. So with this analysis, my recommendation this evening is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Martin, do you have anything you'd like to add, or Joanne on Zoom, do you have anything you'd like to add at all? You can just push your button there. Yeah.
Okay, no, Aaron, thanks for that.
Oh, push it again. Just push it once and you should be good.
Thanks, Aaron. That was a very good report. I like that. And yeah, the plan was 16 years ago to build a retirement home there. That's why I planted the trees there. And I didn't know that the roads had changed that much. So I didn't even think about it. But I'm hoping that we can forego the 20-day waiting period after the meeting. Because we don't want to build in the winter. I don't know if you can do that or not. That's.
Want to address that, Mike?
Through the mayor to Mr. Timmons, as discussed previously, it's under the Planning Act. It's not something we have the power to.
okay. No, I just thought I'd ask. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm assuming there's no one in the gallery wishing to speak to this application at all? Okay, any members of the Committee of Adjustment have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. So we have the recommendation in front of us, and that is for approval. If we have a mover and seconder. Okay, Councillor Clark and I see we got to get Councillor McKinnon on the books. Seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor, and that's carried. Okay, thanks. Okay, so the next application is for consent. It's BO4 2022, and that is for 28844 Center Road. And we have Dave Powell here. I'm not sure if you're wanting to come forward, or I know that we have Becky Griffiths from Mackenzie Lake is also on Zoom. Okay. Alrighty, so I will let Aaron go through the report, and then we'll ask if there's any other questions at all.
Thank you, Chair. So as the Chair noted, the next application is for 28844 Center Road. Sorry, that's the name of the owner, 28844. The addresses are actually 28444, 28448, and 28460 Center Road. So the purpose of this application is to sever an existing building from a larger piece of commercial land for business planning purposes. To facilitate the severance, the application also requests to establish a legal access easement on the lands to be retained in favor of the lands to be severed for use of the existing access onto Center Road. So the subject lands are approximately 3.44 hectares in size, with approximately 206 meters of frontage along Center Road, and contain a Moffett and Powell Rona retail store, a Bell building, an OPP detachment, as well as an outdoor storage area associated with the retail business. The property is accessed via an existing driveway onto Center Road, which is shared by all three buildings. Property records show that the lands are connected to municipal water and sanitary services, with individual services provided to the retail business and to the OPP station. So the subject lands are owned by the operators of Moffett and Powell, with leases to both Bell Canada and the Ontario Provincial Police for use of the property. The applicants are proposing to sever approximately half of a hectare, which would contain the OPP detachment, which would be conveyed to another landowner. This new parcel would continue to operate as it does currently, with no change of use proposed. So there's no change to the status quo for either of these two properties. The lands to be retained will be approximately 209 hectares in size, with about 130 meters of frontage along Center Road. The lands contain the Moffett and Powell business with associated outdoor storage and the Bell building. There is an existing easement on the subject lands, which already provides access to the Bell building from Center Road. The applicants are proposing to establish an additional easement on part one of the retained lands in favor of the severed lands to again allow legal access to the existing driveway on Center Road. The easement would be approximately 1,165 square meters in area, with about 20 meters of frontage along Center Road. The subject lands are located within our commercial corridor designation of the official plan, which allows for an opportunity for a range of highway commercial uses along Center Road. The property is also located within the corridor commercial CC zone of our zoning bylaw. The CC zone permits a range of large-scale commercial type uses and requires a minimum area of 0.4 hectares, a minimum lot width of 30 meters, and a minimum lot coverage of 40% rather. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The Township Public Works Manager advised that individual connections to the severed and retained lots do appear to be already in place for both water and sanitary services. The Adelaide Metcalfe Chief Building Official advised of no objection to the proposal, provided the lands are serviced by municipal sewer and water services. The drainage superintendent advised that the property does appear to be within the watershed of the Cuddy Drain. This drain is very close to the beginning of a reconstruction project, and this property will be involved with this process and will receive notices as the project proceeds. I think that was more of just an sort of an FYI to the landowner. It doesn't actually have a bearing on this application itself. The county engineer is very supportive of the proposal as it reduces access points onto County Road 81. He is also requiring a 0.3 meter land reserve to be placed along the entire frontage of the severed lot. This would remove legal access to Center Road and would facilitate the severed lot using the shared driveway, which is already existing. Additionally, the applicants will be required to confirm land dedication to the county along Center Road, measured to 18 meters from center line of construction. I reached out to the owner's agent and did advise ahead of this meeting of these two requirements. I did a quick measurement just using our county GIS, and it does appear that 18 meters has already been taken, so that appears to already be satisfied, but it is going to be the requirement of the applicant to demonstrate that on their reference plan, just for confirmation purposes. Enbridge also advised that they have lines in this area, and if the severance impacts these services, it may be necessary to terminate and relocate these lines according to the new property boundaries. I have not received any public comments in relation to this application itself. So the PPS County Official Plan and Township Official Plan direct settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development. I am of the opinion that the creation of one additional commercial lot for business planning purposes is generally consistent with these planning policy documents. Both the lands to be severed and the lands to be retained meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw in regards to setbacks and lot coverage. And as both parcels are individually serviced with municipal water and sanitary, the requirements of the commercial corridor designation are satisfied in our official plan. I also note that while a police station is not expressly permitted within the CC zone, it can be considered what we call a public use, which is permitted in all zones according to section 5.24 of the zoning bylaw, so long as it meets the provisions of the zone in which it is located. The requested easement is sought in order to establish a permanent shared access to the severed lands across the retain. Shared driveways along Center Road and within the commercial corridor land use designation are supported by the township's official plan. And further, a single access point from the county road to both properties is preferred and supported by the county engineer. So it is my opinion that the proposed access easement is desirable, as it would improve overall safety along Center Road by reducing entry points at non-signalized locations. So all of that being said, my recommendation this evening is for approval, granted to or subject to 8 conditions. They're the standard consent applications with a few additions. Number 3 being the requirement for county road dedication up to 18 meters, if not already to that width. Number 4, the 0.3 meter reserve along the entire length of the severed lot. And number 6, that a permanent access easement be established and registered on title of the lands to be retained in favor of the lands to be severed, as is shown on part 1 of the proposed severance plan to the satisfaction of the township. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add, or would you like to hand it over to Becky?
Not really, it's just a business decision to have the OPD station separately, marked out from the final property. There's always the benefit to be done when the time is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And Becky, do you have anything you'd like to add, or is that, I'm not sure if you heard what Dave just said.
Yes, we obviously support the report that was presented by Aaron, but we are available for any questions should there be any from the committee.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? No. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. We have the application, and its recommendation is to be granted with the 8 conditions, mover and seconder. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the last application in front of us is for consent V09-2022, and that is for 2789234 Ontario Inc. Doug Cuddy, and we have the agent here, and that is Harry, and you are from Zelinka Priamo. And are you able to hear us and see us?
I can hear you, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will hand it over to our planner, Aaron, to go through the report, and then we'll go back to you if you have anything else you'd like to add.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application before committee this evening is requesting to establish permanent access easements across 3 recently severed commercial parcels of land to facilitate the creation of a shared entrance onto Center Road or County Road 81. So the committee will recall that on February 22nd of this year, 2 consent applications were granted conditional approval, which was B13 and B14, to permit the creation of 3 new and 1 retained commercial building lots. As a result of access restrictions imposed by the Ministry of Transportation and the County of Middlesex, the lots are permitted 1 shared access onto Center Road, which will be located on the southernmost lot opposite of the existing hotel entrance. So the application proposes a 7-meter wide shared driveway that would run along the front of lots 1 to 3, approximately 3 meters from the property line. The access point onto Center Road will be located again on lot 1, directly across from the access into 28610 Center Road, which is scheduled to be signalized at some point in the future. The subject lands are vacant of buildings and structures and are comprised of cultivated fields They also do not appear to have any existing accesses from Center Road currently. The subject lands are located within the commercial corridor, a designation that provides an opportunity for a range of highway commercial uses along Center Road, and is also located within the commercial corridor, corridor commercial zone, which again allows for large scale highway commercial uses. The application was circulated to the prescribed agencies as well as surrounding property owners. The county engineer advised of no concerns with the location of the proposed driveway and access onto County Road 81. Further detail will be required during the detailed engineering phase in the future. I also have not received any public comments in relation to this application. So the requested easements are being sought in order to establish permanent shared access to the subject lands. Developing shared access driveways along Center Road is supported by the township's official plan, and a single access point from the county road to the 4 properties is preferred and supported by the county and required by MTO. Further approval of the reciprocal access easements will satisfy conditions from the previously approved severances. So it is my opinion that the proposed access easements are desirable, as they would promote connectivity and accessibility for patrons of the site while improving overall safety along the county road by reducing entry points at non-signalized locations. So my recommendation this evening is approval, subject to the 4 conditions listed in my report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Harry, do you have anything you'd like to add at all?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I mean, as Ms. Besh explained, this is, it's basically following up with conditions of the previously approved consent to create the lots. Thank you to Aaron for her report tonight and for the staff recommendation. We're in support of that recommendation, just here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us for approval with the 4 conditions. Mover and seconder, Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, thank you so much, Harry.
Great. Thank you, committee members. Thank you.
Okay, now we just need a motion that the council adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 7:27 and convene at our regular council meeting. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor, and that's carried. Alrighty. Oh yeah, if anybody in the gallery, I guess we could have told you to leave if you wanted to, or you could leave if you wanted to after the application. You can stick around. It's up to you. It's been a few years since we had anybody in the gallery, so we forgot to mention that. Yes. Alrighty, so the next section is correspondence. So upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. Our next regular meeting is Tuesday, September 6th, followed by September 19th. Recommended readings, correspondence number 1 is from the Assault Bayfield Conservation Authority, and it's the Adelaide Metcalfe 5-year forecast. So that's from 2023 through to 2027. Next is the Blue Water Recycling Association Board of Directors meeting highlights, and that was from July 21st. What are you waving at? Oh, thank you, Aaron. You can go too. You're good. Thank you. Thanks for all your help. Yeah, this is gonna get like something you get used to, where people are half in here and half on the screen. Yeah. Next is the County of Middlesex, and it's the council highlights, and that's also from July 19th. Item number 4 is from the Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Optimist Club, and it's a thank you letter regarding the sports day and barbecue. And I think most of us from council were able to go out there to that event. It was really well done. The only thing I wish we could do is turn the heat down on how warm it was. It was a very, very warm day. Item number 5 is from the Strathroy District Chamber of Commerce, and it's their summer newsletter. And then item number 6 is the Thames Valley District School Board accommodations plan. And if you haven't read that from front to back, that's a unique one to read, to see what's going on at Thames Valley, and seeing all the numbers and how many portables are at certain schools and percentages of how full certain schools are as well. Action required, item number 7, resolution from the city of Brantford, and its potential threat to residential home ownership. Okay, nobody's throwing their hand up. Number 8, also from the city of Brantford, seeking prosperity and partnerships with Indigenous nations. Okay, and lastly, resolution from the town of South Bruce Peninsula. It's the physicians shortage in Ontario, and this is the one that Councillor Clark has declared a conflict on. Okay, seeing, Councillor McKinnon.
I thought we should support it.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, are you seconding that? Okay. Any discussion at all? All those in favor? And that's carried. All right, thank you, Councillor McKinnon, for speaking up for that one. We need a motion now to receive items CC 1 through to 8. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Clark, all those in favor, and that's carried. Councillor McKinnon, you turn your screen off. I'm not sure if you meant to do that. There you go. We can see you again.
Okay,
Staff reports. The first one is the Fuller hair strain, accept the request and appointment of the engineer, and we'll throw that over to Coulter.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Smith. Yeah, the first report tonight, actually, Andrew Neely, the drainage superintendent, prepared this report, but he's unable to make the meeting. So I will present. This is a accept request and appoint of engineer for the Fuller hair strain. On July 26th, staff received a request to reconstruct the Fuller hair strain under section 78 of the Drainage Act. Under normal circumstances, staff sends notices out. Now, the municipality has received a request that would likely affect other landowners. However, in this case, staff reached out to these owners to inform them of this request, as the affected landowners have already been a part of the process leading up to this request for reconstruction. After giving residents sufficient time to respond, it was determined that at this point, there is no further interest in expanding the project beyond the requester's property. It should be noted, this is very early on in the process. Landowners are still able to request that the project be expanded to include more of the drain. This can be done up to the consideration meeting for the engineer's report. Given that farming has changed in the last 50 years, expectation on drainage and the current state of the drain, it is possible there will be further requests to improve. Sorry, drink of water to improve the drain beyond the current request. The recommendation is there. I'm open for any questions from council.
Okay, thank you, Coulter. Is there any questions at all? Okay, seeing none, and that recommendation is that council appoint Spruce and Associates to write a report to reconstruct the Fuller Harris drain based on the request received from owners of concession 3 SER lot 12 of the former Adelaide Township. Mover and seconder. Oh, go ahead, Councillor.
Just one question. So if there's no other landowners that really want to do this, do we really need to appoint Spruce and Associates and spend the money now? Like if there's nobody else asking?
That is a great question for our drainage superintendent, Andrew. I think this is the proper process to follow. I don't know.
Yeah, so from what I understand of the Drainage Act, we do have to appoint an engineer to do the report so that they can do things like capacity planning and all that other kind of engineering stuff. So it is part of the process under the Drainage Act, from what I understand. I'm good with that.
Yeah, Councillor Clark.
Has there been any consideration given to using a different engineer just to keep everybody honest and competitive in pricing?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Clark. Excellent question. And this one often pops up when staff are talking about which engineers to appoint. Spruce does have a long history of drainage in the township. They are good to work with. We haven't really looked at the cost specifically line item. There's only 2 of them in the area, from what I understand. Forget
Ray Dobbin.
And generally, from what I understand, talking to my colleagues, they're in the same margin when it comes to costs. So because we have an excellent relationship with Spreads, they are our appointed drainage engineer. Typically, we just thought that we would proceed as normal.
And then just to add to that, just from some history context, so there is somewhere a motion on the books somewhere, I don't know how many years ago, that Spruce and Associates are recommended engineer for anything drainage. And then just in general, because Spruce has done so many of the engineering, so much of the engineering of all the drains, if you were to go from Spruce to say Dobbin to somebody else, it's a lot of paperwork to shuffle around and get the knowledge from one engineering firm to another. So they already, I'm assuming that if this drain already was originally had Spruce's name on it, then it kind of makes sense to continue down that road. All right, so we have the recommendation in front of us. Did we have a mover and seconder? Okay, Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. All right, the next one is the first half of the 2022 building activity summary, and I've kept Arnie waiting probably longer than I ever have. Arnie.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure. Through the mayor to council, I'm pleased to attend to council today to present the first half report for Adelaide Metcalfe. In my report, I summarize the 5 municipalities that we do building inspection services for, including Middlesex Centre, and then I have a breakdown of the activities in Adelaide Metcalfe specifically. My analysis is that this year is very similar to where we were last year, which is good. It's a consistent year, it's consistent growth, and the last table in the report shows building permit fees are well in covering the cost of Middlesex Centre providing the service to the municipality. So I think generally it's a good news report, and I think the outlook for the rest of this year for Adelaide Metcalfe is more of the same, consistent with what we've seen previously. But I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions at all for Arnie? Okay, seeing none. So the recommendation is that we receive the 2022 building activity summary to be received for information. Okay, Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, thank you, Arnie.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the RFP for animal control services, and I'll hand it over to Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just dipping into the Drainage Act real quick, just to go back to Sue's question. It does mention with the report of an engineer appointed by council. So it is part of the Drainage Act and process to reconstruct a municipal drainage. And I'll just take a minute to get my other report going here, no problem. Animal control services. So as council knows, May 5th, we received a letter from Vicky Kyle. She is retiring, no longer able to provide the services. Through provincial legislation, a municipality also has to provide some form of pound services as well. With Vicky's retirement, there's at least 9 other communities out there that were leveraging her services for animal control and care. We had the unique opportunity to be able to work and lead with our administration, because we have some procurement expertise on staff, the development of a request for proposal process that essentially allows other municipalities to underpin our procurement process. So it means we get to do something once, those 9 other communities don't have to do that something, and then they can choose to adopt our recommendation or the outcome of the procurement process. So we posted the RFP on June 9th. It was extended. It was to be closed on July 4th, but it was extended to July 15th because we weren't seeing as much activity as we would like to see. So by extending it, we were able to collect a proposal. So through that procurement process, we did receive a proposal from the London Middlesex Humane Society. The evaluation committee got together, rated it very high because it was or it is an excellent proposal. They're attempting to do some unique things out in the area such as the potential of bringing a satellite facility to support what they called was the mothership back in London. So they wanted to expand their community presence, not just providing specific pound services, but also things like educational services too. So following the process that we laid out in the RFP, we had an evaluation committee. It was composed of 2 Adelaide Metcalfe folks. That was Mr. Barney and myself. And we had the CAO from Southwest Middlesex, Jill Belchamber Glazier, and Janet Dankers from Brook Alvinston. They comprised the evaluation committee. We got together and rated this proposal quite high. So typically I would bring a package of the RFP or the procurement process itself, a copy of the RFP, which is attached to the report, but also a contract for services. But because there's 9 other communities that are potentially relying on this outcome, we wanted to break it up into 2 parts where we get council to approve the procurement of the thing, but then direct me to negotiate a contract for services. By doing the approval of the outcome, that allows the other municipalities to start doing their thing. So start contract negotiations with London Middlesex Humane Society. So in saying that, essentially asking council at this time to approve my recommendation and to direct me to negotiate a contract for services.
All right, is there any questions at all? Councillor McKinnon.
Not a question, just a comment. The London Humane Society has an excellent reputation for animal welfare, and in reviewing the report given by administration, I'm in favor of giving the contract to them.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments at all from members of council? No. So Councilor McKinnon, you said you're okay with going ahead with contracting it. Is that what you're wanting? No. The recommendation is that council approve the evaluation committee's recommendation and then proceed with negotiating a potential contract for service with the Middlesex London Humane Society, and that council direct the CAO to bring back potential contract for the services to a future council meeting for council's consideration.
Yes,
That's what you want to move.
There, yes.
Okay. Well, Councillor Clark will second that. That's okay. Is there any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so the next one is the Richardson Tree Program, and I'll hand it over to Coulter.
Well, thanks again, Mayor Smith. This program was promised through budget to be presented to council in the summer, so here it goes. After the passing of Frederick James Richardson in 1973, the former township of Metcalfe was named in Mr. Richardson's will. Mr. Richardson directed his trustee to transfer and pay all the rest, residue, and remainder of his estate to the township of Metcalfe in the county of Middlesex in the province of Ontario for the purpose of planting hard maple trees in the township. Over the years, this kind donation from Mr. Richardson has been carried out as per his wishes based on an ad hoc program. We would like to improve the current program and have a more formalized process moving forward. To do this, we will better market the program online using our website and Facebook pages. Residents will be able to complete an easy to fill out request form and submit it to the township. The proposed Richardson Tree Program is outlined below. Communications will be launched in August and close in late September. Each household will be limited to a maximum of 3 hard maple trees, free of charge up to the budgeted amount. The maximum of 3 trees per property is to spread the opportunity throughout the entire township. This will be on a first come, first served basis. Trees to be planted on private property in the township of Adelaide Metcalfe, and township staff and council will not be able to participate in the program. All hard maple trees will be purchased by the township utilizing the generous donation by Mr. Richardson and will be delivered to each household with directions on how to plant and care for these trees. After reviewing the accounts, the Richardson Tree Fund has $31,367 remaining. This year, we have budgeted $4,000 towards the purchasing of hard maple trees. This amount will give us between 70 and 80 trees per year to be planted in the township. By budgeting $4,000 annually, we project the program to be completed in the year 2030. I have the recommendation in front of you, and I will open it up for discussion or any questions.
Is there any questions at all? Okay, Councillor Brody.
I guess the only question I got, which I am a taxpayer hat on, is why I wouldn't be able to get any trees.
I can answer that. It's just, I have looked around and spoke with other municipalities on different tree programs and they do add that in there, just, so they don't get the first come. Yeah, so but it's something that we can change because yes, you are a taxpayer, so but it is something that we have seen in other municipalities. That's why it's in there.
I guess I'd leave my hat if there was only some left over. How's that sound? I'd be on the last basis. Other than that, it looks good.
Okay, Councillor McKinnon.
Just a question through you, Mayor Curtis, to Coulter. Will the township be purchasing the trees through the conservation authorities?
We have actually looked into that. There is a couple programs out there. We have purchased them in Petrolia in the past, but it's definitely something that we are looking into. I know Mike and I talked about that maybe a week ago. So we are looking into that. I never know where to look.
My second, I'm sorry, my second question is to you, Coulter. The report was calling for hardwood trees and you specified maples. Will you be looking at the natural species as well? Because those are the ones that tend to be stronger and aren't getting the blights that a lot of these other trees are, according to the Conservation Authority.
In the will, it is specified to be a hard maple tree, so that's why we stuck with that.
So we have to stick to it. Okay, thanks, Coulter.
Okay, is there any other questions at all? I guess the only question that I have, just to go back to that, the maximum of 3 trees per property. And then until obviously you get to that 60 or 70. If there's more people that request it, do we just reduce the number of trees that people get? So they get 2 or they get 1? Or are we just cutting it off and everybody gets 30 and then when you get to that maximum, you hit it?
That was kind of the goal here, but again, open for discussion. This is just sort of a base. We can definitely change things, add to it, whatever council feels.
Okay, it just really depends on how many people, I guess, contact.
Yeah, it's, possibly as a solution, you could stick with the 3 and then start a waiting list for next year so that those people go to the top of the list, because if it's always the same people, we don't, that might give everybody a better chance.
That's a great point.
But Sue, I like that point, and the reason why we threw 3 out there, first in, first out kind of stuff, is it was a good place to start. It's a fair, transparent program, but then if we're getting the demand, then we'll have to bring that back to council and have some ideas generated. And if we have a list of people at the end, that's a great problem to have.
Absolutely.
And we'll certainly adopt that idea and bring it back to council.
Perfect.
Alrighty, so we have the recommendation that council receive the Richardson Tree Program report or information. Okay, Deputy Hendricks and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that is carried. All right, the next one there is the speed signs, and I'll hand it back over to Coulter.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. It's just a quick report outlining the new speed radar signs. The township, along with other municipalities, face challenges when it comes to keeping drivers and pedestrians and cyclists safe on our roads. Traffic Logic supplies portable radar speed signs that gives driver feedback on their speed, as well as collecting data so we can analyze different patterns from different locations. By storing this data, it gives us the ability to forward this information to local authorities to be a part of our solution. In response to frequent requests regarding speeding or speeding concerns raised by residents, council did budget for the purchase of 2 radar speed signs in the 2022 budget to help create safer roads in our community. Caradoc Townsend Mutual Insurance Company donated funds for the purchase of one of these speed radar signs. I know Councillor Clark was a big, I forget the word I'm looking for here. I just went blank. Facilitator in getting that. And I don't know if Sue wants to speak to that. She can if she feels like it.
Sure, thanks, Coulter. First, I'd like to thank the retired fire chief, Aaron Nordoff, for his participation in the initiative. I won't go into the background, which sort of sparked my interest in the radar signs, but for me to put forward the sponsorship request to the various farm mutuals, and as Coulter mentioned, we only had one bite, but one's better than nothing. I asked Chief Nordoff to provide data comprised of a 3-year rolling average from 2018 to 2021 to speak to the number of Adelaide Metcalfe Fire Department calls that responded to motor vehicle accidents. And that number as a percentage was just about 40%. And to me, that was a little bit concerning, especially since in that 3-year period, 18 of those 36 months was when we were in COVID lockdown. So there were actually less vehicles on the road at that point. It's been almost a year since we started down the path, and it'll be October 2021. And as Coulter mentioned, the signs are in and they're soon to be live. And our desired results is safer roads for Adelaide Metcalfe, reduced risk to our fire team because we're going to have less fire calls, given that that's such a high percentage statistically. We have a history of that. And reduce operating expenses. Less fire calls is less gas and everything else. So yeah, so keep your eyes open for those and adhere to the speed limit, I guess.
Thank you, Sue. I will say staff will prepare a report once a year, bring forward to council, so council and residents can see the results from the radar speed signs. We will be starting in the village of Kerwood for 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll be moving to Adelaide Village. There will be other locations that the speed radar signs will be located as we move forward with this new traffic calming solution. There's no financial impacts as this was budgeted in the 2022 budget. And the recommendation is below, and I will open it up for any comments or discussion.
Okay, thank you, Coulter and Councillor Clark. Is there any questions or comments at all? Okay, so we have the recommendation to receive the report as information. Okay, Deputy Hendricks and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, next is the Kerwood Park Phase 2 tender results, and I think I'm going to hand it over to Morgan first before we go to Coulter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and through to council. Sorry, Colt, I just wanted to.
No,
preface
it's
this one because things got expensive very quickly. So when we last spoke with council, we discussed obviously various park improvements that we could include in the overall tender package. There was some concern of, cost control, given labor, material costs and fuel surcharges exponentially growing at that time. We did test the budget with our appointed engineer at that time, and it did seem reasonable. However, seeing the tender packages were a little outside of the budget. We did include a couple of wish list items like a pickleball courts. We wanted to see what that would cost, and a sign, I believe. So there were a couple of added amenities that council was thinking about removing. However, we were able to structure the tender process so that we could itemize certain improvements against their costs. So through Coulter's report this evening, it's essentially a tender approval report with some discussion. What I just wanted to make sure the council knew is that by approving the lowest bidder, that gives us the ability to talk to them about the elimination of some items. We're not approving a $1.1 million project this evening, for example. So I just want to get that out on the table. We need approval to move through the tender process so that we could hear what council is thinking this evening through the discussion part of Gold's report. And then we can take that back to the low bidder, start working on a contract that would include these items. So council will see this again. We just have that extra little step because we are so over budget. So I'll throw it over to you, Cole. That's pretty much all I have.
No, that's perfect. I'll try and kind of run through this. We did close the tenders on July 7th. We had 4 bids submitted. Throughout the tender, respondents were also made aware that we may need to eliminate some items given cost constraints. The tender was based on the lowest overall cost to complete the project. Frank Van Bussel and Sons Limited was the lowest overall bidder at $958,124 plus HST. There are two attachments there. One is Spreet's Associates recommendation for the Kerwood Park upgrade. And also there are the phase 2 drawings there just for the discussion. Like Morgan mentioned, unfortunately, due to rising costs, the project came in significantly over budget, forcing us to eliminate some items. The 2022 budget for this phase was $408,000. Below, I have itemized a bit of a list here of the project components. There was the new sign at the front entry, paved parking lot with curbs on both sides, and also along also sidewalks along the Kerwood Road. There was a pickleball court, paint new lines on the basketball court, electrical, which includes the new ball diamond lighting, basketball court lighting, and parking lot lighting. Paved walking path around the playground connecting the pavilions to promote accessibility. 2 new dugout structures, the concrete in between both pavilions, as we heard a lot of feedback on that one. Door access and controls, sidewalks along Kerwood Road, as I mentioned, resurfacing of the ball diamonds, new bleachers, resurface under the bleachers, resurface under swing set, corner markers for the soccer fields, and landscaping. Staff are recommending eliminating the following items throughout the contract process to get within budget and consider these options for a possible phase 3. After working with Spreet's and kind of going through the wish list of council, sort of the bigger ticket items that we felt that we really needed to get done this year. I think these are some of the line items we would like to eliminate, but obviously this is all open for discussion, but this will get us closer to that $408,000 target. So this would be eliminating the sign at the front entry, the paved parking lot with sidewalks along both sides will be eliminated. But there is potential for paving a few spots near the front pavilion for accessibility. Sidewalks along Kerwood Road, that was already going to be looped into the Public Works budget, so that we're most likely going to still be able to get done, just not through this process in Parks and Rec. Also, landscaping will be out, the door access control, bleachers, and then resurfacing under the bleachers, resurfacing of ball diamonds. I felt the ball diamonds have come, quite a ways this year. I think they looked really decent compared to the years past. So I think it's something that we can look forward to do, next year or the year after, see how much this park takes off, and we can make those decisions later for resurfacing both diamonds. And then there's resurfacing on the swing sets and the corner markers for soccer fields. So yeah, obviously I'm going to open it up for discussion now with council and see what you guys think.
Okay, thank you, Coulter. I think we have probably a lot to discuss, and it's going to take a while. Deputy Hendricks.
Yeah, it's just a question. I don't know if I'm just having a brain freeze or whatever. What do you mean by door access control?
I can flip this one to Morgan. You can hear pretty well good on this one.
Yeah, so it was a IT solution to manage the security of the doors, windows, that kind of stuff. So we had remote control over things like lighting. So we can have a key fob instead of a physical key. So right now we're renting out keys as part of the rental contract, for example. Say when those keys get lost or copied or otherwise, it just closed that gap a little bit. But yeah, given the park's use today, it was one of those nice to have things in our.
And if I could just add to that, it would also be used, for example, for the actual washrooms themselves. So then instead of having, if on the weekends, I'm not even sure right now if the washrooms are open or not.
Yes, sir.
So they are open. But if, for example, then they could automatically lock at a certain time, they'll automatically unlock at a certain time in the morning instead of having somebody to run their morning and night to lock them and unlock them and that type of thing.
Something we definitely want to work forward to, but right now it was something that we could take out.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Councillor McKinnon.
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Coulter, has staff looked into approaching or appealing to the wind turbine companies that are presently operating in the township and asking for donations towards the park?
Let's take that one. Johnny.
Thank you, Councilor McKinnon through the council. I have reached out to the contact through the one wind turbine company that has the program that Curtis has mentioned to me before. I have yet to hear back from them, but I will definitely follow up because I know there is money earmarked for us to apply for. But yeah, I will reach out to see if we can get some assistance on that.
Thanks, John.
And just to add to that, Councilor McKinnon, so there is the wind turbine company that's NextEra. So they have $25,000 that's budgeted, from my understanding, annually. And anyone in the community, any community groups can reach out to them and do an application for getting to those funds. It just takes a lot of work to be able to get those funds because those are it's an American company and it takes a lot of work to be able to get that done. So hopefully Johnny's able to get an agreement of some sort. So we just annually get that $25,000 and we can either use it to improve the community being at the Kerwood Park, or be able to use those funds to donate them back as we do with our annual council donations.
Thanks, Curtis.
Just to jump in again, Betty, and you got me thinking, but we did apply for a number of grants to support the park, right? And unfortunately,
Yes.
we weren't able to be successful in those grant applications. So there are certain items that would fall under the seniors grant program, or there's another accessibility one where we could kick those out and see if we're successful again. I think the grant opportunities open up at the end of the year. So again, that is another consideration that we try to leverage grant opportunities to support some of these additional improvements. So it's almost, what do we need to get done now for the safety of the use of the park? Maybe there's rusted posts or something where the rest of it could be potentially secured through a grant opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Clark.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So thanks for mentioning that. There's always opportunities out there, and even in the private sector too. Like we have to start partnering with the community and businesses out there as well.
Okay. So is there any discussion? Are we as council happy with what is recommended to be eliminated?
So I through Curtis to council. I stopped there tonight and took a look around. So I agree with, we don't need a sign at the front entry. The paved parking lot, actually the park looks better than it has in a long time. So that's stuff I agree with that we don't need to do. I would like to see the sidewalk go in, but we can, or next council can look on that on their sidewalk budget, basically after, correct? The door access control. I looked at the bleachers, and really the boards are the biggest problem. Like, they're just old. Like, that's something that can be just be replaced really to make it look a lot better. The resurfacing of the ball diamonds, like Colter said, that they're in really good shape. So I don't believe we need to spend the money on that now. Corner markers. So I'm in agreement with this stuff here. Just one question I do have is, do you know how much money the new diamond lighting is in this package?
Yes, Councilor Brody, it's right around the $190,000 mark.
Yeah,
It's quite a.
so I did talk to a fellow tonight that, is involved with the Optimus, and he said really the lights aren't that bad. Like, they are decent. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for really, we only need that lit up a few times. So I'm almost wondering if that's just going to be, if that's something we should cut out too, because that's a lot of money there. I'd rather see it, maybe some landscaping that look better. That fence has got to come out of the front, I'm just really starting to wonder about that, spending that much money on lighting, because it's not used late all the time. Like there's not like a ball league is there that they play every once a week at night. So I'm just really starting to question if that's just too much money to throw at that project.
Deputy Hendricks.
Yeah, it is a lot of money, but we do have that post out in the middle of the field that is a danger. And I think new lights operate cheaply. I believe we're still using old technology, so we will save. I don't know what the electricity bill is, but I think in some cases it's a build it and they will come type of idea. So maybe we will attract a league if we don't have, if the fielders don't have to worry about backing into a post somewhere.
I know originally that is why that was put in there, because that light standard is in the middle of the field, but both great points.
Just to build on what Cole's saying, we could also take a look at what removing that light standard looks like. And we can also look at what replacing the lighting with LED, like retrofitting lighting, to see if we can get a different, because some of that lighting is now directional and all that stuff. And it's a lot brighter than old halogen stuff. So we'll put that on our list to take a look at. It would just have to be outside of this project because we've tendered for 10 things. If we remove one of those things, we can't bring in a 0.5 of that thing. It just has to be out of the project.
And I would agree. I think we had this conversation a while ago, Morgan, that the cost of that electrical work is very high. And I think that that's something that I believe we should just be yanking out of this phase 2 and looking at it next year as to whether we want to remove that post and then just retrofit the lights that you mentioned, because I'm assuming that with that $200,000 or close to $200,000, that includes brand new everything. And the infrastructure is already in the ground. It's just a matter of trying, if we just have to remove that light standard out there and put a box in the ground to continue that connection from this to this to this, and just remove this here, get new brand new lights to then have it so it's actually shining the entire diamond up properly with new LEDs. That's I think the way to go. And then to be able to do some of that stuff. So for example, the landscaping or whatever else on that elimination list that's currently on there, we could pop that back up. I think that's the right move to go. But I have no idea what these other costs are, so I can't tell you what I think you should move back up.
Yeah, 3/4 of it was broken out in the tender, and then there was a grouped ticket item for remaining work. So just with kind of going through it with streets a little bit, you're still going to get your pickleball court, painted new lines on the existing basketball court, which would be nice. The fencing along the Kerwood Road is a part of that. The new backstop. What else do we have here? Concrete in between the both pavilions, 2 new dugout structures, an $8,000 contingency, and the accessible paved walking path around the playground. So those are some of the ticket items that we're definitely looking into, trying to hold for this tender.
So based on council discussion, if there's not any more comments or things that council could consider eliminating, what we'll do is we'll work with Spria and the low bidder, I forget their name, to eliminate those items, and we'll bring back a contract for council's consideration. Depending on timelines, stuff like that, because we got to buy materials. I might ask council for a favor of a quick special meeting one night. But we'll try to get this back for the September 6th while trying to keep everything moving, because we're on pretty short timelines at this point. So we want to make sure that this thing gets going for the fall so that we're ready. Yeah, so right now, what I'm hearing from council is that we pull out the 190, we look at another option outside of this tender package that would be more of a retrofit, but also the safety consideration of removing the posts.
Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us. So looking to the clerk, is that still good, or what are you wanting?
Council Ward tenders ranked on Bustle.
Yes. You want to do them separately?
Well, given what we've heard from council this evening, I'm happy to take general direction on how to put that contract together. I don't think I'll miss the boat too much. Cool. I hammer that one out. So all these recommendations are good, I think.
Okay. Okay, so we have a mover and seconder for the recommendation. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. And if you want me to read through those, that would be that council award the tender to Frank Van Bussel, I assume is what it is, and Sons Limited. And further, that council confirmed that the tender from Frank Van Bussel and Sons Limited is over budget, and that council direct staff to develop a contract to eliminate items and bring back an agreement to complete the works for council's consideration. Okay, so that was moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Alrighty. And that is the end for our staff reports. So the next part is our closed session, but we do have the gallery open. So we're going to jump in, and we have somebody sitting in the gallery, which is great. So we're going to go into other business first. Is there anything for other business from members of council? No. Okay, well then. Oh.
Sorry, it's more a comment than anything else. Is I've been talking to a lot of people in the community, and it sounds like the Kerwood Park is really getting used quite well, and there's cars up and down the street a couple of nights a week. So that's really great to have spent the money and seeing the usage increase. So that's rewarding.
All right, so with that, we're going to go into our closed session, and we need a motion from council that we adjourn to a closed session at 8:11 p.m. under section 239(2)(e) and F of the Municipal Act, and that is to discuss the servicing agreement between Adelaide Metcalfe and Strathroy-Caradoc and a drainage process. Mover and seconder. Oh, sorry, we need a mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Hendricks, Councillor Brody, all those in favor. And that's carried.